Welcome back. Um, Go ahead and get out your bag of beans that if you got your things at school, this will be in there. If you don't have, if you didn't come and get your supplies from school, then you can go ahead and just use a piece of paper and make dots. That's what I'm going to be doing. I tried to film showing you how to use the beans, but it wasn't really working, so I'm just going to be showing you on the whiteboard. But get out your beans. The first thing I want you to do is make 4 groups of beans, and we're going to put 3 beans in each group. Or for me, I'll be putting 3 dots in each group. So I went ahead and marked out my groups. You don't need to do that, but just make sure that your groups are distinct and separate. You can tell what's one group and what's another one. So we'll go ahead and put 3 beans or dots in each of our 4 groups. So I want to know how many dots I have. And I want to do something that's faster than counting each one individually. So what I could do, let's see, I think you learned about this in first grade, is I could write what we call a repeated addition sentence. So that's just adding, but I'm adding more than one number. It's just that in this one, each number happens to be the same. So I could write an equation that is 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals, right? I'll double check and make sure that's right. 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals. All right, so 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is going to tell me how many dots I have or how many beans you have. But let's see. So a different way that we can write this equation, we're starting multiplication. And so I could write this, or I could write it a faster way using multiplication. So I'll show you what our sign for multiplication looks like. Right. That is our multiplication sign. So it looks like an X, except it's kind of sitting up in the air. So if I had a number here and a number here, you can see my multiplication sign is a little bit high up. And when I'm reading a multiplication equation and I see this, I would say times. So whatever number is here times whatever number is here equals is our formula for writing a multiplication equation. Okay. So I could write, for my dots here, I could write 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals, or I could write a multiplication equation, which is going to be shorter. And so the first part of my equation would be 3, because 3 is the number that I'm adding. We see everyone here, every number that I'm adding is 3. So we would start with 3. And then times, the times tell me how many times do I have 3. So we could count here how many times we have 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make sure that matches up with what we have up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so each of those it's 4. So each of these I have 3 4 times. All right, so we would write that 3 times 4 equals. This is when our skip counting comes in really handy. I hope that you've been practicing. We learned how to skip count by 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 10s. And so hopefully you've been practicing that. If you have not, I will post videos of us doing that skip counting. And you can practice that. Okay. So when I want to figure out a multiplication equation, that's when my skip counting is going to come in handy, especially when we move on later and we're not always going to have a picture to help us. Because if we needed to right now, we could count the dots in the picture, but we don't want to be counting each one individually. Remember, we would want to skip count by threes and say, so what that looks like when we practice doing that would say 3, 6, 9, 12. The thing is, we want to make sure we stop skip counting at the right point in time. So when you're trying to solve a multiplication equation, the first thing I'm going to see is what am I going to skip count by? I'm going to skip count by threes. How many times am I going to skip count by threes? I'm going to do it 4 times. So right now, while you're learning, if you need to use your fingers to keep track, that is just fine. So we would do something like 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, I have 4 fingers up, so I've skip counted by threes 4 times. So what was the last number that I said when I was skip counting? I forgot. I'll go back and check. 3, 6, 9, 12. 12. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. All right, so I'm going to give you another, I want you to make groups of a certain size this time, and I want you to make a certain number. Let's see, all right, sorry, it's hard for me to think and erase at the same time. All right, so using your beans, once again, let's see, I want you to make groups of 5. All right, so groups of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want you to make 3 of those. So go ahead and make 3 groups that each have 5 in them. Go ahead and do that with your beans. All right, so your beans should look something like this. So first I want to start by writing a repeated addition equation to find out how many I have here. So how many am I adding each time? How many am I adding each time? Good, I'm adding 5 each time. So I'm going to write 5. That's going to be what I'm adding to each other. So 5 plus, and remember I'm going to add 5 as many times as I have groups of 5. So 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals. All right. So this is my repeated addition equation, but I want to write it in a faster way. I want to write it as a multiplication equation. So our repeated addition equation and our multiplication equation will give us the same answer, but we want to learn how to write the multiplication equation because if I have 100 groups of something, I'm not going to want to add a number together 100 times. That's going to take me a really long time to write it out. So instead, I'm going to write a multiplication equation, which gives us the same information. It gives us the same answer, but it's much faster to write, or it can be much faster to write. All right, so what multiplication equation would I write for this repeated addition? Let's see, well, let's go ahead and start by putting in let's move this a little bit. Let's go ahead and put in our formula for a multiplication equation. Remember, it's blank times blank equals. Right. So what number, how many do we have in each group? What's going to be our first number? It's the same as the number that we're adding to each other. What is it? Good, it's 5. So 5 is going to be the first number. in our multiplication equation, what's our second number going to be? It's going to be the number of times that we are adding 5 to each other. So we could count this, or let's go up and count in our equation. Whether we look at the dots or our repeated addition equation, we see that we're adding 5 3 times. We're taking 5 3 times, so our second number is 3. And our equation is going to read 5 times 3 equals, right? Now to figure that out, we're going to skip count by 5s. How many times are we going to skip count by 5? Good, we're going to do it 3 times since we're taking 5. 3 times. Ready? You can use your fingers to help you so you know when to stop, because we don't want to keep going. I know it's fun to skip count, but if you keep going and you're not keeping track, then you won't know what your answer is. So ready? Let's go. 5, 10, 15. All right, what is 5 times 3? It's going to be the last number that I said. When I was skip counting, what was that last number that I said? Good, it was 15. So 5 times 3 equals 15. All right. All right, so I just paused the video to put up another picture for you. I want to see if you can write the repeated addition equation for this without me helping you. So I'll show you, we've got groups of 2. I'll go ahead and circle each group, groups of 2. So we'll be doing 2 plus, and then how many times are we going to add 2 to itself? So count your number of groups, and I want you to go ahead and write that repeated addition equation. All right, I hope that your equation looks like mine. Let's see, because we know our groups are 2. How many times are we adding 2 to itself? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we should be adding 2, 5 to get to itself 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. All right, so let's go ahead and write this repeated addition equation as a multiplication equation. So our first number, what's our first number going to be? Right, it's what we're adding to itself, so it's going to be 2. And then we need our multiplication sign, which when we see it, we say times, even though we call what we're doing multiplication. And then how many times are we adding 2 to itself? Good, 5. If you need to go back and check in your picture or anything else, you can always go back and check. But it's 2 times 5 equals. All right, so if we want to solve this and there's nothing for us to count, we can count right now while we're learning, but eventually we're going to need to have these memorized. But until we have them memorized, let's see, try and challenge yourself to do the skip counting without looking at the picture. So again, I'm going to count by 2s, and I can use my fingers to keep track, and when I have 5 fingers up, I know to stop, because that's 2 times 5. All right, ready? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, class, what's my answer? Good, it's 10. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 10. Oops. And that is the same time as 2 times 5. So 2 times 5 equals what? Good, 10. If you'd like more practice with this, if your student wants some more practice with this, they can look at pages 131 and 132 in their textbook. There's some more examples there for them to practice. In their textbook, And then so if your child is still struggling with this concept or having a hard time, I'll make more videos this week just going over multiplication. So if your child is struggling, you can have them watch the video again. They can try with their beans again and writing the equation. One thing that's a little bit nice about me not being able to be with your students is that they can hopefully get some more one-on-one attention from you, and they can kind of move at their own pace. So once again, if your child is feeling comfortable, they can go ahead and look at those 2 pages in the textbook, 131 and 132. And then after they've finished that, after they feel comfortable with that, you can have them go ahead to page 123, which is in their math workbook, 123. And they can do pages, let's see, I think it's just 123 and 124. Yep, they can go ahead and do pages 123 and 124 in their math workbook. Those pages just tear out, so after your child's done that, have them write their name on it. You can tear that page out and send it back. All right, that was our introduction to multiplication, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye.